Good day, everybody, and what's up? Dr. Nick here. And after taking a slight break from making podcasts, I'm back once again, and as you can hear. And today's topic comes from a conversation I was having with my better half, Vicky, as many of you already know. And we were having a conversation about sexual health, pretty much. And she happened to bring up something called the husband stitch. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not a husband or a stitch. So to be honest, I had no clue what she was talking about. So she explained it to me a little bit. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. But then the more I sat and thought about it, it actually makes perfect sense. So today, we are going to talk about the husband stitch. So to get this podcast started, I had to ask myself, okay, wait, what the hell is the husband stitch? So I looked it up, and it pretty much occurs immediately or soon after childbirth, and of course, it happens to the female. And I'm pretty sure the female doesn't give any consent. She has no idea that this is going to happen or anything like that. So it's done to her, typically by the doctor, the male doctor. And let's say that the mother has just given birth to a child, and that the doctor goes in and starts to do a repair to the episiotomy, or if there's any sort of tissue tearing during childbirth, fine. And the doctor, of course, will stitch her up. And, of course, there's an extra stitch, quote unquote, added, the husband stitch, which is done to make the vagina so, quote unquote, tighter again after childbirth. That's all there is to it. And of course, it's only done for his pleasure, for her husband's pleasure, her boyfriend, whoever, but it's done for the male's pleasure. And in many cases, the female has no clue that the husband stitch was just done to her. And it's also called the daddy stitch in some circles. But that whole scene is terrifying, and just the thought of that happening is terrifying, and it should scare many women out there who are mothers, because you know what? This may have actually happened to you, and you don't even know it. So right off the bat, my question is, one of my concerns is, of course, the women are not giving their consent to have this extra stitch done to them. Because most of the time, women don't know that it's even occurred until later on, and I'll get into that in a hot second. But it doesn't make any sense, because, of course, like the doctor can always say, well, I had to do this extra stitch, quote unquote, the extra stitch to completely, sew up the tearing, from your childbirth or something like that. So that's his out, or that is her out in some cases. But once again, so in many cases, women may never have known that this was done to them until they start having pain during sex and during the childbirth of their next child. Because, of course, the extra stitch is not going to stretch or anything like that. It's going to tear. So which just adds more pain, more suffering, more misery that this new mother has to go through again, which is unwarranted. It should not even be, but it is. And that's just like another way of, like, it's another thing of men controlling women's sexuality. And that's it, plain and simple. So as I sit here and I think about the possible millions of women that this extra stitch was done to, and it makes me think back to female genital mutilations that were going on in Africa and still are occurring in Africa, and female circumcision over in Africa and things like that. And just the idea and the way that we here in the United States like to project ourselves as being better than them, better than the other. But if the reality is, if we're actually doing these things to actually harm female sexuality in that way, especially in the genital area, how can we be better than them when we're actually starting to mirror them? You see what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to make this a far leap, but it's not, because in my opinion, it's almost like a slippery slope to doing something else. What? I have no clue. But just think about that for a second. We always hold ourselves up in such high regard, with our nose pointed up, like towards the sky, looking down on others, but we're actually doing the same thing to women in the U.S. that they do over to women in other African countries. So you got to think about that for a second. So as I close out this podcast for today, I just would like to leave the mothers and the fathers out there with a simple question. But to the mothers, do you have a husband stitch? And more importantly, did your husband or your boyfriend ask for the husband stitch? I'm not trying to sow any seeds of resentment or anything like that, but just had to put it out there because apparently it's been around for many generations. So even like your mother may have had a husband stitch, and she may never known about it. But think about it this way: prior to giving birth to your child, was there pain during sex? And now all of a sudden, after you've given birth to your child, including like several months later or years later, are you still dealing with pain from after your childbirth? That's my question. And is it like a one-to-one relationship to the husband stitch? No, there could be something else going on. I don't know. But I just want to put that out there. I'm not trying to plant like any negative seeds. But since this has been done for generations, it's possible. So I just want to give you guys something to think about. So on that note, I'm out. You guys have a great day. Stay tuned. And I will talk to you soon. Take care. All right. Bye.